During a weird stretch of my life, I was bouncing around a lot, living out of my car, couch surfing, or picking up odd jobs. One thing I relied on was pet sitting. I'd house sit for people, watch their animals, and get paid to sleep in places far nicer than anywhere I could afford. It was easy, usually quiet, and gave me time to breathe. This gig came through a site I'd used a bunch. A couple living just outside Bozeman, Montana, needed someone to care for their cat while they were away on a week-long yoga retreat in Colorado. The house was a modern wood and glass cabin, tucked deep into the forest about 30 minutes outside town. No neighbors nearby, and I mean none. The kind of place where the silence rings in your ears. I arrived that Tuesday afternoon, just as the last bit of sun was starting to stretch low across the trees. The couple, Jared and Elise, were nice enough. They showed me the basics, introduced me to Milo, their 12-year-old black cat who seemed more interested in sunlight than in people, and gave me their contact info just in case. They left not long after, a little rushed, but friendly. Once they were gone, I walked through the place to get familiar. Big open living room, wide glass windows, a deck that looked out over a ridge, and a whole lot of silence. It was beautiful, sure, but it also had that kind of stillness that made your skin crawl if you sat in it too long. While exploring, I noticed a small, unmarked door under the stairs, painted the same color as the wall. It was locked. They hadn't mentioned it, but I figured it was a utility closet or storage, maybe where they kept valuables. I didn't think too much of it until later. That night, I made some dinner, fed Milo, and curled up with a book on the couch. Around 9:30, Milo suddenly sat up and stared toward the hallway. His ears were stiff. A second later, I heard what sounded like a dull thud, like something dropping. I paused, waited. Nothing else. I got up, checked the rooms. Everything was as I left it. Milo, I muttered. Probably just jumped off something. But Milo hadn't moved. He was still staring, eyes wide and fixed on the stairwell. I brushed it off, turned in around 11, and locked the bedroom door. Something I didn't usually do in pet-sitting jobs, but something about the night felt too heavy. The next day started slow. I made coffee, read outside, and let Milo roam a bit on his harness. He only went a few feet before curling up on the deck. Later in the afternoon, I decided to take a short walk along the gravel driveway, just to stretch my legs. That road went on for a long time, at least a quarter mile, until it met the main road, which was barely more than a dirt track. Halfway through my walk, I heard gravel crunching in the distance behind me. I turned and saw a white pickup truck creeping down the driveway toward the house. It wasn't fast. It wasn't aggressive. But it was odd. No one should have been coming down that road. There were no other houses. I stepped off to the side, expecting the driver to wave or nod, but he didn't. He kept his head forward, face hard to see behind the reflection of the windshield. The truck rolled past, slow, almost casual. Then it kept going, disappearing around a bend near the tree line. No license plate on the front. I didn't get a look at the back. That night, the unease deepened. Milo was restless. He kept moving between windows, low to the floor, staring at corners, and then back at the locked door under the stairs. Around 10, he sat directly in front of it. His tail flicked. He let out a low growl, not loud, but full of tension. I tried coaxing him away, but he wouldn't budge. Just sat there, staring at that door like something was behind it. I didn't sleep much that night. By the third night, the house didn't feel peaceful anymore. It felt watched. Even though the doors were locked and the windows were shut, I couldn't shake the sense that something was just off. I stayed up later than usual, scrolling through my phone and pretending I wasn't listening for every creak and shift in the old wood frame. Milo curled up at the foot of the bed, but every now and then, his head would snap up, ears twitching like he heard something I didn't. At some point, I must have drifted off, because the next thing I remember was Milo hissing, a sound I had never heard from him before. It jolted me awake. The room was dark, lit only by the glow of my phone on the nightstand. I sat up, heartbeat already pounding, and listened. The hiss came again, sharp and angry. Milo had jumped down from the bed and was positioned low to the ground, staring out into the hallway. Then I heard it, a soft creak, like someone stepping carefully on a loose floorboard. I froze. Another creak, then silence. Then I reached over and grabbed the flashlight I kept in my bag, clicked it on, and slowly crept toward the bedroom door. Milo didn't follow. He stayed crouched by the bed, still watching the hall. I opened the door and aimed the beam out. Everything looked the same. But when I turned toward the staircase, my stomach dropped. That locked door under the stairs, the one I had checked twice already, was now cracked open about 6 inches. I didn't move, didn't breathe. I just stared. I had no explanation. The couple never gave me a key to it. I hadn't touched it. And yet, there it was, ajar, revealing nothing but a slit of pitch darkness beyond. Milo hissed again behind me. Against all better judgment, I stepped into the hallway. My legs felt like they didn't belong to me. I got closer, trying not to make a sound, and pushed the door all the way open. It creaked louder than I wanted it to. The light from my flashlight revealed a low, ceilinged crawl space, cluttered with boxes, insulation, and thick wooden beams. The air that came out of it was cold, colder than the rest of the house. And then, in the far back corner, my light hit something that made my blood run cold. A face, partially hidden behind a beam. Pale skin, sunken eyes. A man crouched in the shadows, unmoving, but his eyes locked directly onto mine the second I saw him. I slammed the door shut with everything I had and sprinted back to the bedroom. Grabbed Milo, my phone, my keys, barely thinking, then bolted out the front door. I didn't stop to turn off the lights. I didn't look back. I just ran to the car, shoved Milo into the passenger seat, and peeled out down the gravel road, and trotting and skidding around turns as my hands shook on the wheel. It took me nearly 10 minutes of driving before I had cell service. I pulled over and called 911, barely getting the words out. When the sheriff's deputies met me at a gas station just outside town, I was shaking too hard to hold the cup of water they gave me. I told them everything. The couple, the job, the face in the crawl space. They didn't say much, just nodded and took notes. An hour later, they called to say they'd searched the house. The man was gone, but what they did find under the stairs made my stomach flip. He had been living down there. They found a sleeping bag, half-eaten food, a couple of empty water bottles, a small, prepaid burner phone with no contacts. There was even a narrow vent he could see through into the living room. They believed he had crawled into the space days before I arrived, maybe longer, watching, waiting. But here's the part that still keeps me up at night. When I contacted Jared and Elise to tell them what had happened, they were horrified, but also confused. They told me, "There isn't a crawl space under the stairs. That door's always been a blank wall." I didn't believe them until I saw it with my own eyes a few weeks later, when I returned with an officer to collect some things I'd left behind. The wall was sealed, smooth, painted over, no door, no handle, just wood. I took the night janitor job because I liked the quiet. No coworkers to make small talk with. No phones ringing off the hook. Just me, a mop bucket, and my playlist. The real estate office I cleaned was in downtown Asheville. Modern glass building, 2 floors, and a weirdly sterile vibe, like it had been designed by a computer. It was a Thursday night in late February, cold enough that my breath fogged up inside my car when I pulled into the lot. I was running a few minutes late, but didn't care much. I had the only key I needed, a regular old metal one they gave me during onboarding. No fancy badge or security card like the daytime staff. I unlocked the front door, the click echoing across the dark lobby. Most of the lights were motion censored, so the entryway lit up in patches as I passed through. I clocked in on the digital kiosk, grabbed my cart, and got to work. An hour in, everything was routine. Wipe down desks, take out trash, vacuum around cubicles. Peaceful. Then, just as I was finishing the back office, the front desk phone rang. It startled me. I stood still for a moment, staring down the hallway toward the lobby. The phone kept ringing. Slow, steady, persistent. Caller ID read, "Private number." I figured it was a spam call, maybe someone looking to leave a message. No one legit would be calling a real estate office at 10:40 at night. I let it ring until it stopped. Then, maybe 3 minutes later, it rang again. Same number. I left it alone. But when it rang a third time, something about the pattern put me on edge, like someone was checking if anyone would answer. I finally walked up front and muted the phone, my fingers lingering on the cold plastic. The place felt off, too quiet, like the walls were holding their breath. I brushed the feeling off and headed upstairs to the break room, poured some stale coffee from the pot, and scrolled my phone for a few minutes. That's when I heard it, a faint mechanical beep. It came from below. Not a phone or an alarm, more like the sound a badge scanner makes when it unlocks a door. Then came the soft click, followed by the unmistakable creak of a door opening. I stood frozen next to the microwave, staring at the hallway that led to the stairwell. My heart started hammering in my chest. I wasn't expecting anyone. No one else was supposed to be in the building. And then, footsteps. Slow, deliberate, getting closer. I stepped toward the stairwell, each footfall deliberate, silent. The break room light behind me cast a faint glow that didn't quite reach the hallway. From the landing above, I peered down the stairs. Nothing. Just the bottom step swallowed in shadow. I hesitated, then called out, "Hello? Someone there?" The footsteps stopped. The silence that followed was suffocating. No response. No movement. Just that dense, waiting stillness you feel before something goes very, very wrong. I took one cautious step forward and leaned over the railing. That's when I saw him. A figure. A man, I think. Tall, wearing a hooded coat, standing just inside the hallway, right at the base of the stairs. He wasn't moving, wasn't looking around. Just standing, like he'd been waiting for something, or someone. I backed away slowly, heart pounding, and slipped into the supply closet across from the break room. I shut the door as quietly as I could and crouched behind a shelf filled with printer paper. With trembling fingers, I pulled out my phone and called 911. I whispered into the speaker, giving them the address, telling them someone had broken in. I stayed quiet, listening. The stairs never creaked, but I swear I could feel him just standing there, like his presence was stretching up toward me, thickening the air. The dispatcher stayed on the line until the officers arrived. I heard the front door open downstairs, followed by a loud voice. "Police! Anyone inside? Come out now!" I stayed where I was, too afraid to move. 2 officers eventually found me in the closet. They swept the building, both floors, bathrooms, storage rooms. Nothing. No one. But I knew what I saw. I knew someone had been there. The real horror came the next morning, when the manager called me. They'd checked the security footage. At 10:48 p.m., a man wearing a dark hoodie approached the front door. He didn't force it. He used a key card. A valid one. The beep I'd heard. The door unlocked, and he walked in like he belonged there. He didn't go to any office. He just stood at the bottom of the stairs for over 5 minutes. In one hand, held low by his side, was something shiny. They couldn't confirm what it was, but it looked sharp. He only left when the flashing lights of the police car came into view outside. He turned and walked calmly out the door. Here's the part that messes me up. Every employee's key card was accounted for. None were missing. No one reported a stolen badge, and I was never given card access, just the standard key. They still don't know who he was, or how he got the card. I still work there, but I don't take the night shifts anymore. I can't walk into that building alone without thinking about the way he just stood there in the dark, silently waiting. Waiting for what? I try not to think about what might have happened if I'd gone down those stairs. My name's Eli. I'm a sophomore at a small community college in Tennessee, and I've been working Grubhub part-time for about a year now. It's not glamorous, but it covers my food, gas, and the occasional weekend hangout with friends. I drive a 1998 Toyota Corolla, banged up, faded red, and rattles when it idles, but she's still kicking. That Sunday night started out like any other. Quiet, boring even. The town was mostly asleep by 9:30, and I was thinking about calling it a night when an order popped up on my phone. Good tip, small order. Just some burgers and a milkshake from a local diner. The only catch? The drop-off was about 20 minutes outside of town. I hesitated. I'd heard of Hollow Creek Trail before, some random gravel road off the highway, winding through thick forest, mostly used by hunters or campers. But I figured, hey, easy money, and I'd be back before 10:30. Big mistake. The drive started off smooth. I took the highway east where the streetlights ended, and the dark just kind of swallowed everything. No other cars, no building, just black forest on either side. After about 15 minutes, I saw the turnoff, Hollow Creek Trail. It was barely marked, just a rusted street sign and a gravel path that dipped into the trees like a mouth swallowing light. I clicked Arrived on the app. That's where things started to feel off. My signal dropped almost immediately. The trees on either side pressed in tight, and my headlights barely lit more than 10 feet ahead. The road was so narrow my tires kicked up loose gravel as I crept forward. A couple of sharp turns later, the app dinged again. You've reached your destination. But there was no house, no driveway, nothing. The road just ended, like whoever made the trail gave up halfway through. I sat there for a second, engine idling, holding the takeout bag in one hand and staring out into the trees. Total silence. Even the bugs had stopped buzzing. I got out, hoping maybe there was a path or mailbox I missed. I walked a few steps beyond my headlights and peered into the woods. That's when I saw it. A light, faint, flickering, like a lantern maybe. It was about 30 yards into the trees, too far to see clearly, but just close enough to feel wrong. It wasn't moving. It just hovered there, half hidden between the trunks. "Hello?" I called out, feeling stupid. No answer. The air smelled like damp leaves and old smoke. I stood there for a minute, debating whether to walk toward it. The app said this was the address, and the light was the only sign of life. Then it blinked out. No sound. No footsteps. Just gone. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. The silence got heavier, like the woods were holding their breath. Then, snap. A branch broke deeper in the trees. I didn't wait to find out more. I turned and jogged back to the car, heart pounding, fumbling for my keys even though I'd never taken them out of the ignition. I opened the driver's door, about to slide in, when something made me pause. Behind me, just beyond where my headlights cut off, something was moving. Not walking, creeping. At first, I couldn't see anything, just the tight beam of my headlights cutting through mist and trees. But the sound was getting louder. Slow, deliberate footsteps crunching leaves and underbrush, like someone trying not to be heard but failing anyway. Then something stepped just barely into view. It was a man. Or I think it was. Barefoot, shirtless, tall. His skin was smeared in something dark, like ash or mud. His eyes caught the edge of my headlights, and for a second, I could swear they glinted like glass. He didn't say anything. Didn't flinch when I opened the car door. He just stood there, watching me. One foot slightly forward like he was about to charge. I slammed the door, jammed the car into reverse, and floored it. Gravel sprayed behind me as the tires struggled to catch. The Corolla bucked like it was going to stall, but then it jolted backward. In the corner of my eye, I saw him start sprinting. Fast. Too fast. He crashed through the brush, aiming straight for where my car was heading. I cut the wheel hard and did a rough 3-point turn, barely missing a tree. In the side mirror, I saw him burst out of the woods onto the trail just behind me. Arm outstretched like he was trying to grab the trunk. I didn't look back after that. I drove. Fast. The trees blurred, and I hit every pothole and bump on that cursed trail. At some point, something tapped on the roof. Just once. Then again. Tap. Tap. Like knuckles on metal. I wanted to believe it was just a branch, but the road was wide open now. I didn't stop. The second I saw the yellow glow of the highway lights ahead, I floored it. Didn't slow down until I was 2 exits away and surrounded by traffic again. Only then did I pull over and finally breathe. Back home, I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing his eyes in the dark, hearing that tapping. Around 3 a.m., I sat down at my laptop and searched Hollow Creek Trail's strange sightings. There wasn't much, but I found a thread on an old local forum, buried deep in some conspiracy blog. Someone had posted, "Deliveries keep getting routed to Hollow Creek. No homes, no signal, just a light in the woods." Another person replied, "I followed the light. Don't make the same mistake." That was 2 years ago. The account had no activity since. I deleted the Grubhub app the next morning. I haven't driven out that way since, and I don't think I ever will. But sometimes, when I'm alone at night, I still hear that tapping. And every now and then, I dream about the man with the ash-covered skin, still standing there, still watching.
If these stories sent a chill down your spine, go ahead and tap that like button and subscribe for more eerie tales. What would you do if you were caught in one of these unsettling situations? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd really love to hear what's on your mind. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next nightmare.